Okay, welcome to our share, Parshas Vayegash, Tafshin Pei Aleph. I hope everybody is fasting well because it's one of the unusual occurrences of Asar B'Tevis coming out on a Friday. So Yosef and his brothers get together, and Baruch Hashem, it's wonderful, it's magnificent, and the rapprochement is something that we even today, all these years later, we fell and we feel good about it. And Yosef wants to bring his father. And as a matter of fact, it really comes from Paro. And Paro tells him that, I'd like you to bring your father and send Agolas. I'm going to give you all the best of Mitzrayim. And he says, and Yosef sends Agolos al pi Paro. So really, Paro was the one who said to send Agolos. However, in the pasuk, when it tells us about Yaakov and how Yaakov perceives it, it says something different. It says that Yaakov sees the Agolos, asher sholach Yosef, that Yosef sent him. Lotzei se'asai, v'atichi ruach Yaakovim, and Yaakov, he came back to life. And Rashi tells us that they were in the middle, it was a remez. Yosef gave him a remez. He said, you know something, Abba? We were learning a sugya of Eglah Rufa. And I still remember we're in the middle of the sugya 22 years later. And it's wonderful, Abba. We're going to come back and to say, Yagolos, it's a remez. And Yaakov understood the remez. Yaakov understood what it meant. That Yosef was still who Yosef was when he left. I'm the same Yosef I was 22 years ago. And now Yaakov could come Vatir Chivru Yaakov Aviyam. So the Meforshim all want to know if there was any significance in the fact that it was Eglah Rufa. In other words, maybe they could be learning Elam Metzias, learning something else. What's Eglah Rufa? What's the special significance? So I'd like to make a suggestion, and I'd like to do that by sharing with you a machshava that I heard from several places, and sort of putting them together, and maybe we'll come to a little bit of an understanding of what was special about the sugya dafka of the Eglah Rufa. So let's take a look. Let's jump ourselves all the way to the end of Parsha Shoftim, and the very end by the Mafter of Parsha Shoftim. So we talk about in the Shvi, in the last parak of Parsha Shoftim, and in the Mafter, it says that they find Nebuch, Rahman al-Islan, a cholol between two cities, and the Zekanim came out and they performed what's called the ceremony of the Eglah Rufa. And they say something. It says, Va'anu va'amru. And they say, Yadeinu lo shafches adam hazos. Our hands did not shed this blood. And Rashi asked the famous question, V'chi ola al adas. Would it occur to you that the Zekanim would not shed blood? Would shed blood? I mean, of course they didn't shed blood. What are we thinking? It says, Ella says Rashi, what it means is that they didn't send the person out with Michya and Leviah. It means they didn't send him, they didn't put him on the derech. When he was in the city, they didn't give him what to eat. They didn't have a food bank, a food kitchen, and didn't take care of him. And then they sent him out. And they didn't send him out with a proper goodbye. They didn't walk him to the door. And I was wondering, they fed him, they gave him to drink. Why is Leviah so important? As they affect the moral. What's the Indian of the Leviah? And furthermore, it says by Avram Avinu that Avram Avinu made an Eshel Avram. And we know that the word Eshel is an acronym for Achila, Shtia, and Leviah. Some say Lina. So I understand with Lina, I understand you gave him to eat, you gave him to drink, you gave him where to sleep. These are things that are existential, you need them. But you have to have them. You have to eat, you have to drink, you have to sleep. But did you walk him to the door, not walk him to the door? Did you take him for it? I mean, it seems to be something not in the same league. If you say Levi, it's not in the same league as Achil and Shti, it seems. So what's the pshat? So I once heard from Reb Nachman of Breslov that Rahman al-Islan Loyalenu, he lost a child. And he explained that when a person suffers such a loss, there's two types of pain that the person suffers. The first type of pain is the loss Nebuch, he feels terrible that he lost a relative, and there's a terrible tsar. But there's a second tsar that the person undergoes, and that's an existential tsar of feeling, why me? He feels alone in the world. Why did nobody? He walks down the street and he sees everybody else is with their children and he's not. And that's the pain that he has, a second pain. The pain of the loss and the pain of we'll call it levado pain. The pain of being alone, of being different. It's very interesting when a child falls. So sometimes the child doesn't yell right away. Child just... And then the mother comes along, and the child goes, "Oi, mommy, mama," and he goes running into her arms to be comforted. What was that all about? He scraped his knee, right? And he cried for scraping his knee, and now and he calmed down, and now he cries again because he suffered two types of pain. He suffered the pain of having pain, the scraped knee, and he suffers the pain of the being different, of feeling different. You know, it's very interesting. In the beginning of the Torah, you find that everything is toiv in the Torah. Everything's toiv. This day is toiv, that day is toiv, next day is toiv. It's toiv ma'id. Everything's toiv. Except one thing is not toiv. You know what that one thing is? Loi toiv hiyos adam levadoi. To be levado is loi toiv. To be by yourself, to be alone, to feel different than everybody else, that's a pain that people feel, and it's an existential pain that people find difficult. And that's why it says by Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, what does it say? Vayevaser Yaakov levadoi. Yaakov's by himself, and what happens when a person is levadoi? So the Mefarshim say that's when he's old to mazikim. That's when he's in danger. There's the danger of mazikim, whatever the mazikim means. But being levado, and that's why there's a halacha, that a Talmid Chacham is a person's not allowed to go in a churva by himself. He's not allowed to go into a rune, because the rune might fall down on him, because the mazikim might push the rune on him. But if there's two people, it's different. It says a Talmid Chacham is not allowed to go levado. He has to have somebody accompany him. Why? What's Talmid Chacham different? So it's not, but it's more than the chvaydai. It's because he's in danger. Because the mazikim are out to get the Talmid Chacham more than they're out to get the regular person, and therefore he's in danger unless he has somebody with him. So having somebody with you prevents you from being in danger to mazikim. So the Maral says that when we provide levia for somebody, we provide him, even though we're not taking him to where he's going, we're not really protecting him in the protecting sense, because we're not walking him all the way home, we're walking him to the door. But we provide him with a sense that he's part of the community. We provide him a sense of protection. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks and says, oh, he's protected now. You see, the community likes him, the community wants to be with him, they take care of him. So everything together comes, and there's that sense that he's no longer levado, he's no longer by himself. And it's interesting, because it says, when Yaakov went, he went during the night. And I was thinking about it, why did it have to say he went in the middle of the night? Because that's why nobody went with him. He got up and he went in the middle of the night. He had plenty of people who could have said, Shimon, Reuven, Shimon, come on, come with me. No, he didn't want to wake anyone, it was the middle of the night. So he went by himself, but that going by himself put him in a levado circumstances. And that's really where Klal Yisrael is existentially different than the world. And Am Levadad Yishkain. And that's why we're like Kev's being Shivim Zevim, because we're Levadai. And by the way, we see ourselves Levado, and so does the Umas Olam see ourselves us Levadai. This is a different people, it's a different folk, different people. So therefore we have this Inyan of Levadai. So in that sense, and that's the concept of Levia. Levia is, and this is why Avram Avinu shtel zich on Levia, Eshel. He went and he took and he said, I have to take them to the door. It's not enough to give machila and shtia. I have to take them to the door, because in that I'm now making them part of the tzibur, making no longer, in a levado sense, they're no longer going to be susceptible to mazikin. And by the way, I want you to know, that's on a metaphysical sense, but in a physical sense, there's something to it also. Somebody told me that they once got lost in Harlem, I think, or at that time, now it's upscale, but in those days it was dangerous. And he said that he was with somebody from Manhattan, and the Manhattan person just walked like that's it. They weren't scared. The other person was tzitring because he felt it was a dangerous place at that time. So it was very, so the person, feeling a sense that I'm taken care of, also in a very practical sense gives a person a feeling that, I know what I'm doing. But in that sense, it makes him to be a person who was no longer levado. So Avraham Avinu gave that achila, that shtia, that levia, and therefore the person felt accommodated. And in the same way, that's why by the Egla Rufa also, they said, we gave him michya, but we also walked him out. We also made him feel part of the community. We also made him feel loved. We made him feel that he's part of everything, and that's a person that the mazikim can't get. The mazikim can get a person who's levadoi, but not a person who's together with other people. And that was the Indian of the Egla Rufa, and that's why I think Yosef was telling Yaakov. Yosef was saying, Tata, I miss you. I feel levadoi. Sometimes you meet a crowd of 1,000 people and you don't know anybody. Have you ever had an invitation to a chasna and you're sitting, should I go? I don't know anybody. Or I know with camp, every kid needs to go with somebody. They can't go to camp by themselves. They need somebody. They just push it. That's us. As people, we can't be like Tov Yoslam Levadai at all different levels. So Yosef told Yaakov, Tata, I want you to come and be with me, so I should no longer be levado. And he gave him the Egla Rufa, because the Egla Rufa said, what was the chet? The chet was they left them vulnerable. They left them where the mazikim can get to them. And therefore Nebuch, the person, was killed. And therefore they said, in this case, no, we did it. We did give him Levia. We did it. It's not our fault. So Yosef said, that's the lesson here. And I'm also feeling levado. And Tata, because he didn't know if what was going to come or not, because we see very much that Yaakov was very mesopik what he should do, to go or not to go. And this was one of the ways that he wanted to help him go. So we see this concept where now, I heard from a Victor Miller, he said that the Chevra Kedisha used to have jackets with hundreds of tears in the jacket. Why? Because it's a huge inyan that by Yitzias Neshama of a person that people should be there. She should not leave this world levada. He should not leave this world by himself. That there's a terrible loneliness that a person feels b'shas b'tirasai, and the Chevra Kedisha was with him. So they performed that chesed. And I think this is an enormous lesson to us, especially here with the Kufas HaKovid that we've had. And we see this inyan of levado so much. There's so much levado out there. The people have been alone. And we can reach out to them. We have a koyach to reach out to people who are levado on all levels. It's a tremendous inyan that we should all look out for each other. Just as Yosef looked out to tell Yaakov there's a levado, so we also should look out to try and help people. And we should use our own experiences of levado. We should use our own experience when we feel a levado. When we feel alone, when we feel that loneliness, why are we different? Why is this happening to us? All the support groups come out from every machlok, asher lo savai, comes from somebody who felt different, and now he has other people to support him. He doesn't feel levado in that particular inyan. And that's something we should all keep in mind, to help reach out to others, to help them not be levado, and to use those times when we have felt levado to think about it and say, how can I correct this for other people as well? So Levi, the Rebbeinu Shalom, should look at us all working together, all trying to be an achdus of Klal Yisrael, a togetherness of Klal Yisrael, where there's no more levado, where there's no more alone, where everybody feels connected, everybody feels a warmth of each other, and in that way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will look at us, and He will be Matzah Chen Be'einav, and Mitzvah Hashem, He'll get us all back together with the Kibbutz Goliath and Bias HaGoyim. Have a wonderful Shabbos, Parshas Vayegash, and Hatzlacha.